it's a mindset shift that if you see auditioning as a chore or some horrible thing that you have to do, it's a lot harder to get out and do it. If you can reframe it and go, auditioning is the job, then you just go and do your job and you take the emotion out of it.
Hi, I'm James Taylor, business creativity and innovation keynote speaker, and this is The Creative Life, a show dedicated to you, the creative. If you're looking for motivation, inspiration, and advice while at home, at work, or on your daily commute, then this show is for you. Each episode brings you a successful creative, whether that's an author, musician, entrepreneur, performer, designer, or thought leader. They'll share with you their journey, their successes, their failures, their creative process, and much, much more. You'll find show notes for this episode, as well as free training on creativity, over at jamestaylor.me. Enjoy this episode. Hey there, it's James Taylor, and I'm delighted today to have on the show Debra Wanger. Debra Wanger is an award-winning actor, singer, and certified wellness coach who has performed in theaters, cabarets, and screens from New York to Los Angeles. She's a sought-after public speaker, leading workshops at university theater programs and corporate groups across the United States. While working at CAA and as a talent manager, she helped guide the careers of many top Hollywood names. Debra draws wisdom from decades of working as an actor, talent manager, and lifestyle coach to give actors and creatives a holistic approach to their profession that marries mind, body, spirit, and craft. Her latest best-selling book is called The Resilient Actor: How to Kick Ass in the Business Without It Kicking Your Ass. And it's my great pleasure to have Debra with us today. So welcome, Debra.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here.
So share with us all what's happening in your world at the moment.
Well, it's a little bit different. I tend to do things that fill my calendar that involve crowds and audiences, like public speaking and live theater and leading workshops. And my calendar's been cleared lately. So I've been having an opportunity to pivot and spend a lot of time with my family, like we all are, and using it as an opportunity to kind of reevaluate, reinvent, and practice what I preach and explore some creativity for sure.
It's been fascinating because you work with so many actors, creative people as well, and them not being able to perform on stages or on screen, they kind of all seem to be jumping on social media at the same time, creating these little shows and these little videos things, and it can feel a little bit overwhelming at the moment because so many people are and some of them are fantastic, some of them are really, really good, but there's also other ones that you just get people are still kind of playing around with the technology and with social media.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of advances in the technology because I think we're figuring out things like Zoom work fabulously for interviews like this, for one-on-one coaching, for running a meeting, and times when there's one person talking at a time works great. And even my children are doing school by Zoom right now, which is fabulous to have interaction with their teachers and their classmates. But for things that are so personal, like doing a drama or comedy or things where you want to touch people or have tension or the excitement, it's hard to have everyone in their little Brady Bunch boxes and still have that same level of creative exchange. So I have a feeling that the technology is going to need to change to adjust to this new normal, because it seems like it's going to be a while before we're all allowed to gather again. And Zoom is great and the other technologies are great, but it's not quite cutting it for replicating the theater experience yet. I think nothing like being in a room full of people.
Exactly. That getting that kind of feedback that you have with an audience. I was talking to someone the other day, we were having a conversation about how jokes work and virtually, as opposed to when you're in a room where maybe as a comedian, you would kind of roll jokes and you would like roll them into each other and then this big crescendo at the end. And virtually, it's just really, really difficult to do that type of thing.
Yeah, it's a dance. It's a surf, trying to surf waves when the waves aren't in the same room is a lot more challenging to get that feedback and the excitement.
Tell me, how did you're in the work today you do, which is really as a coach, but obviously I mentioned you had that background really as an actor and as a talent manager as well. So give us a little bit of a kind of history about how you kind of went from these different professions.
Yeah, I didn't exactly have a straight line. It was an interesting curved road. I started acting when I was 9 because my older brother was in a theater troupe with a bunch of actors in Chicago. many of whom ended up having huge careers. John Cusack, Jeremy Piven, Joan Cusack. They were phenomenally talented as teenagers, and I watched them and I wanted to be like them. And I started doing plays and singing in choirs and taking dance class and just performing as much as I could. As a kid, that led to going to college, and for the arts, I just had a passion for musical theater. I just wanted to sing and dance, and that was my preferred world. And then I worked professionally as an actor for several years, and I crashed and burned personally. I was fat and unhappy and lonely, and I was getting, my career was going great, but personally, I was not in a good place with my health. So I worked on my health. I tried all kinds of health modalities. I tried being vegetarian and diets and different kinds of exercise and trying to figure everything out. And then I thought, well, if I reinvent myself and go into the business side of the business, perhaps I can be healthier, which is hysterical because it's Hollywood is not exactly known for its sanity. But I learned a ton. I met people and I have some great stories, but it still wasn't exactly the healthy outlet that I was looking for. But I learned a lot about the business side of things and how Hollywood works, and made a lot of connections with all of that. And then I ended up figuring out that it wasn't necessarily acting that made me unhealthy. There are traps that were unhealthy, but I personally was unhealthy, and I needed to, once I was able to get my act back together, literally, I went back to acting, but I also continued my health journey. I got certified as a health coach, and I had all these different aspects of myself, and I went, what does this look like when I put it all together? And I said, you know what? I had to take this journey by myself to figure out how to go back to acting and be healthy and sane and find a more balanced life. I know there's other people who are having the same problem. Working in the theater, working in Hollywood, working on TV, working as a creative, there's a lot of traps and a lot of expectations that you're just not going to be healthy, and that's just the way it is. So I looked for all these books on health and fitness and wellness for actors, and I couldn't find one. I think I found one book where some people from General Hospital, where it was like a recipe book. It was just pictures of the soap opera making guacamole or something. Wasn't what I was looking for. So I wrote it. I wrote The Resilient Actor, which was everything I wish I had learned when I started. All those lessons, I wrote it for my younger self. And that led to a second book, which is a workbook to go with that, and the Audible version, and private coaching and speaking. And it just became what I do, that I now help creatives not fall into the same traps that I was in.
And in the first act of the book, you talk about this idea about finding your ideal balance. And I'm kind of intrigued in the work of actors. It often looks like a very unbalanced type of life. You're I don't know what they call it in the States, but here in the in UK we call it resting. When you have no work, you go for this kind of quiet period, and then suddenly it goes from 0 to 100 miles an hour, and things are moving very fast and everything. It doesn't look like an easy job to find that kind of ideal balance. So can you talk to me about your thoughts about balance and this idea of ideal balance?
It is very challenging. You're absolutely right. I like resting. That's a much more pleasant way of saying unemployed. Right?
Out of work.
But you can have these long stretches of not working and rejection, or not booking jobs, or having a job that gets canceled because the money's gone for the producer, or there's a global pandemic or whatever. And it can also turn back just as quickly. You can get hired and we need you on an airplane tomorrow to go to the set for, to star in a movie with Tom Hanks. It's a very fast moving thing. And my whole concept is that you need to have resilience in yourself, just like a boxer needs to be in great shape so you can take a lot of punches. Mm-hmm. That if you go into the ring exhausted and drained, one good punch is going to knock you out. But the more the more rested you are, the more your mindset's in place, the more reserves you have, the more you can take a couple punches and a couple surprises and still be standing. I think one of the ways that you can get more balance is to find balance outside of your career, to really find social balance, having a good core group of supportive people that don't care if you're an actor or not. They don't care if you're working or not, that will love you no matter what, whether it's your yoga class or your knitting group or your church group or your recovery 12-step meeting, whatever it is, your family, but having a core group of people that are not related to your acting career, and having health practices, meditation, sleep, nutrition, all kinds of different things to keep you grounded and balanced. So when your career is not as balanced, it's easier to deal with, and you're not putting all your eggs in that one basket.
So this idea of resilience, I think, is interesting. Even if someone's listening to this now and isn't an actor, that's not the job that they do or the work they do. Many of us have obviously gone from a time of being perhaps very busy, traveling, doing our whatever our job is, to suddenly stuck at home. And it's been interesting just kind of watching some of my friends who are in, let's say, the creative arts in one way or the other. Some of them are just kind of having this huge outpouring of creativity at this point, because it's like Japanese poetry, they're constricted. And so they're actually using this to kind of come up with things. And actually it's quite productive, a different type of productivity, but quite productive. But then I'm also seeing other friends of mine, and I would say this is probably more males I'm seeing this in, who are really struggling with, what is my role if I'm not going out every day earning something? And they're really, like, the emotional side is taking a big challenge for them as well. So when it comes to maybe those people that are kind of listening to this just now, who are they're experiencing this for the very first time of resting or not really having any work, or not being able to go to work, what do you have any sense of in terms of like a daily practice, or just some way to kind of start building that core of resilience in themselves?
Yeah, it's interesting. I've heard some people call it the Coronaissance, that we're going through a renaissance. But it is a unique time that people are, people who define themselves by their jobs and the jobs are taken away, that you have an opportunity to really think about, what am I if I'm not my job? What else is left? And, it has definitely been a challenging time, and different people are rising to the occasion in different ways. I've found myself in times of productivity and resilience, and times where I just want to, curl up in a ball and feel sorry for myself and feel scared about the world. I think that the best thing we can do is I am still writing lists of, what do I really need to get done? What can I get done? And, what can I do for myself that will help me feel good? And I try to find one or two things a day that I can focus on to get accomplished. And then, I'm not driving myself. And this is also, when I'm working with clients, and the same thing. I'm not pushing as hard, because I find that the emotional aspect of this whole experience is definitely draining. There's definitely energy expenditure, managing fear, managing life in a different way. Those of us who have kids and are parenting full time, that's challenging. Those of us are trying to pivot and figure out how to do the new career. It's very challenging. So I'm lowering my expectations of myself a bit, not to nothing, I'm not just watching Netflix and eating cake. But still trying to find one or two things to focus on to really accomplish per day. And then a little bit, an extra self-care, an extra meditation session, an extra walk in the sunshine, and, extra connecting with other people by a phone call or a Zoom call, or finding a way to connect. But a little more patience than usual with ourselves, I think, is because we're going through a traumatic experience. This is a stressful experience, and it brings a lot of stuff up. And it's a great opportunity for us to do our work and reevaluate, and do our work, like our inner work too, not just our outer work. But
just kind of being a bit kinder to yourself.
yeah. I said it in about 45 sentences, and you said it in one.
No, but no, it is. We've now got that time to, I guess, to think through some of those things that we've just like, oh yeah, I'm going to get to that. Yeah. It's like that cupboard that we all probably have in our house, or that drawer we have in our kitchen or something. Oh yeah, I'm going to finally clear that thing out and go through all that stuff. We're kind of doing an emotional version of that, I guess, just now. Many of us are. In one of the other parts of the book, you have this phrase, which is auditioning is your job, which I thought was it made me kind of smile, because I think something that actors are you're very well adjusted to, and you understand pretty well, is how to deal with rejection. And for many people, I guess, kind of going, if they've lost their jobs just now, they're going to be going back into auditioning in a different way. And even if people do have whatever their jobs are, they might be having to kind of fight a little bit harder when things kind of go back. So when you're working with your clients, your private clients, and also some of the lessons in the book, talk about that, that auditioning stage, because it's something that I know actors really understand about dealing with rejection.
Anyone who works for themselves, anyone who has their own business, anyone who's an entrepreneur, whether they're an artist trying to sell paintings, or someone trying to sell software or something, but that they're self-generating income, has a similar process. I think the difference with actors and dancers and singers is that you're the product, so you're selling yourself. But it's a mindset shift, that if you see auditioning as a chore or some horrible thing that you have to do, it's a lot harder to get out and do it. If you can reframe it and go, auditioning is the job, then you just go and do your job, and you take the emotion out of it. An accountant doesn't go to work and go, oh, I don't feel like crunching numbers today. I don't feel like, adding it up. It doesn't matter. That's just what you do. You balance the books or whatever. Or I don't feel like assembling these car parts today. If you work on a car assembly line, you just do it. That's your job. They pay you to be there. You do it. So if you can see that that's what you do, you show up, you're professional, your resume's ready, your suit's pressed, you put your lipstick on, whatever whatever you need to do to prepare, you go, you bring your best self, and then you say thank you and you leave. And to take the emotion out of it, and it's not whether you feel like auditioning or not. It's not like, because you can talk yourself out of it if you go based on how you feel. That you do it, your job, you're professional, and you get out. And the results are not up to you, whether you make the sale or not. You bring your best self. So I think that's a big piece of it, because one of the traps that actors and other creatives get to is they go by how they feel. And it's part of being an adult, part of being a professional is that's your job. You show up. If you want to get paid, you got to go do it.
But how do actors, or how do you kind of wrap your head around where you go for a role, you give it your kind of heart and your soul, and then the it's a no, but the no is not we don't feel that the way you acted that particular thing or your take on that character is right, but we just don't like the way that you look for this particular role. We want someone that's a little bit shorter, or we want someone that's a bit taller, and so they're kind of going something that you can't change. It is kind of who you are. It's not like your craft, I guess. How do you deal with that part?
It's tough. And again, it's having a reserve of resilience before you go in. So hopefully those little blows won't hurt as much. Sometimes you hear things like that and it just hurts. And you feel lousy about it, and then you just have to pick yourself up and get going again. There's a famous story, Meryl Streep. I want to say it was for King Kong or something. This is 175 years ago. But the director didn't want to cast Meryl Streep because he thought she was ugly. That's Meryl Streep. Whatever happened to her? Huh? She's doing okay. She's like the most award-winning actress ever now, and I'm sure she felt horrible about it, but you just have to keep on trucking and keep on showing up. And not everybody's going to like you.
It's funny I remember living in the kind of Bay Area in Silicon Valley, and there was on Sand Hill Road there was a VC, a venture capital company, and you go into their hallway, the lobby of the office, and they have this wall, and it's all these amazing pictures, all these amazing brands like Airbnb and all these different companies, and this is all the brands that they said no to, that they didn't agree to fund. And it's like, this
Awesome.
is our kind of wall of shame, I guess. Or this is for us just to realize, to be a bit humble. We can't guess it right every single time. I mean, think about all those casting agents or those producers or directors that have said no, no to the Meryl Streeps of this world, and created a movie that wasn't quite as good as it perhaps could have been.
Yeah, exactly. That's fabulous. I love that wall of shame. And, you're not going to marry every guy you go out with, and you're not going to book every job. Hopefully people will be nice about it and they won't make it personal. But you just have to, dig deep and find what is awesome about you. Sometimes one of the things I talk about in the book is having a list of all the things that make you awesome. And when you have those moments of thinking someone might not be your biggest fan, you can go back to that list and just be reminded, or call your best friend and go, just tell me I don't suck, tell me I'm not ugly.
Just to check. There was someone that once told me they actually have, when they get reviews, nice reviews, they write them down on a piece of paper, and they have a jar in their office, and they put all these nice things in there. And they said on the tough days, what they do is they open the jar up and they'll read one, or they'll read a few of them, just to give themselves that kind of strength to get back into the game as well. In your own career, can you take us about a time when you just kind of came up with maybe a key insight, like an aha moment? You were kind of working on something, you were doing something, and you just, the light bulb went on, and it really kind of changed the direction of your life and how you think about what you do today.
I would say an aha moment that led me to where I am was I felt like I was very disjointed, and I was doing all these things that weren't related. As I said, I mentioned in the beginning of this conversation that I'm an actor. No, I'm a health coach. No, I'm a writer. No, I'm a this. No, I'm a mom. And that I was talking with a friend, and he said, but that's all you. It's a kind of a non-traditional hyphenate, but that's you. And that combination is unique to you. And that's what's cool about it, is you're not doing conflicting things. You're doing an interesting, unique collection of things that makes it much more interesting. I don't know people who are performer, former talent manager, health coach, public speakers. I don't know a lot of people who do that, but that's great. I don't want a lot of people to do that. I don't want it to be a saturated marketplace. I found, what I saw as flaws or a bumpy road or being inconsistent or all these stops and starts, which I could say is, oh, I failed at this, or I didn't like that, or I couldn't decide, or all these different disjointed things. I said, no, that's actually what kind of makes me unique and cool, is putting all these things together. And who says I can't hyphenate those things in that way? Why not? I'm going to be a health coach for actors because there was a need. No one else is doing that. So
it's like baking a great cake.
Seeing that as a detriment, I said, well, that's my superpower.
Yeah, it's like someone that makes a great cake, and I think, okay, they've got that. Yeah, I kind of guessed that ingredient and that ingredient would be together, but you put paprika in it. Like, what was, there was like something different, or maybe the first time anyone has tried, salt and with ice cream, that shouldn't work, but it does.
Yeah, who was the first guy who dipped pretzels in chocolate?
Exactly. Who was that person?
Or potatoes, and that's like, that sounds like a horrible idea, but it's awesome.
Yeah,
right.
It's the mix. It's the remix of these different things. You do them together. Right. In the work that you do, as a coach as well as an actor, is there an online resource or a tool or an app like an Evernote or something that you find very useful in doing what you do?
Well, I definitely love Zoom, and Zoom is definitely out of the closet now. I've been Zooming with clients for years. I find it's a great tool. And I am a geek. I love health tech gadgets. So I have to say, one of the tools that I love and I recommend to my clients is my Oura ring. It's Oura. It's like a Fitbit, but it's a ring, and it tracks sleep, heart rate variability, respiration, exercise, and steps and intensity and things like that. So it's a great way to see what's working and not working with stress and sleep and all that. So we can kind of help dial in maximizing sleep and stuff. So that's one piece of technology that that I love. I wear it, and then it kind of gamifies it too. Like, oh well, if I have 2 glasses of wine, I get this much deep sleep. But if I go to bed at this time, I get that much REM sleep, and kind of help get that feedback to find out what's working and what's not.
That's fascinating. So that's called an Oura, Oura ring.
Yes. So that's one of my favorite gadgets. And you can just see numerically if what you're doing is working or not, and if it's getting you closer or further from your goals.
And it's interesting. We had a guest on quite a while ago, probably about 2 years ago. Actually, we put the links in the show notes here as well, who works in healthcare at university, as a professor in healthcare. And they've been doing some really fascinating studies with people that wear things like Fitbits. Then they can actually tell by the way that you walk and how your pacing is, and the way you do your steps, whether someone is depressed, or people that have maybe manic depression, for example, types of depression. They can see them going into those various different cycles, and it then immediately alerts the doctors to tell them, hey, this patient here, you might want to pick up a phone to them because we're seeing some unusual patterns kind of going on. So it's kind of very fascinating how these devices are providing us with information on our emotions.
Yeah. And then also I get feedback on body temperature. So I can tell if I'm getting sick or if my menstrual cycle is coming or things like that, based on rises and fall in my body temperature, things like that. So you can get some interesting information, but that's fascinating about mood and anxiety and depression, and how that, because it does affect your breathing patterns. Absolutely. And your movement patterns, and in both directions. It can be information, but it also, if you're not breathing and you're not moving, you're more likely to slip down into those challenging moods.
And if you were to recommend one book to our listeners, not one of your own books, but a book, and I know another author that's really inspired you, or you've maybe gifted more often than others, and also one album or record that you would suggest people check out, what would that book and that record be?
Well, I should probably say my CD, because I have about 1,000 copies in my garage, right? If you want to hear me sing. But no, I'm a Broadway girl all the way. So I would probably have to say some cast album that I've just listened to over and over and over again. Some Sondheim or something, for an album, because I don't listen to as much pop music. I love the emotion and the passion of Broadway, maybe like the cast album to Ragtime or Sweeney Todd or something.
Great. And what about a book? Or is there a book that you've maybe recommended to some of your clients more than any other?
I definitely love the Bulletproof books, because I was mentored by Dave Asprey as far as my coach training. So I love the research that he's done with biohacking and diet. And I owe a lot to Dave Asprey for that. So I'll give him a shout out. And the Bulletproof Diet and his series of books and blogs has been very helpful in my health journey. So Fantastic. I'll give a shout out to him.
We'll put those links here as well. And if people want to learn more about you and your books and get a copy of the latest book as well, where's the best place for them to go and find out about that?
My website is debrawanger.com, and that has everything on it. It has links to speaking when we get to speak again, and podcasts that I've done, and my CD and my books, which are on Amazon and Audible. I also have a new quiz. How resilient are you? If you want to find out exactly how resilient you are, there's debrawanger.com/quiz. You can take that. But it's all right there if you need more information or want to connect with me. I'd love to hear from you.
And a final question for you, Debra. Let's imagine you woke up tomorrow morning and you have to start from scratch.
So you've got all the tools of your trade, all the knowledge that you've acquired over the years, but no one knows you. You know no one. What would you do? How would you restart things?
I've had to restart a few times, so it's interesting that you said that. I would actually go to the beginning of my workbook, because the Resilient Actors Workbook and Planner leads people through some similar exercises, and the process that I use to work with clients to where do we start? How do I get an action plan? What do I want? And it leads you through your mission statement, your values, your goals, coming up with an action plan, what habits and actions do I need to take? So I would actually go through and do that set of exercises again, which would help me focus and figure out what actions do I need to take. And then I would call my coach and get accountability for an action plan and start there. So I'm really grateful to already have that infrastructure in place, because that's what it's designed for, is to help you figure out where am I and where do I need to go.
Fantastic. Well, Debra, thank you so much for coming on the show today. Your best-selling book is out now. It's called The Resilient Actor: How to Kick Ass in the Business Without It Kicking Your Ass. Available on all good stores, and also we'll put a link to it here as well. And Debra, I wish you and your family all the best in these very interesting times that we're living in just now.
Thank you. Same to you. Stay healthy and stay happy.
If you're interested in living a more creative life, then I'd love to invite you to join me as I share some of the most successful strategies and techniques that high-performing creatives use. I put them all together in a free downloadable ebook that you can get by going to jamestaylor.me. That's jamestaylor.me to get your free downloadable ebook on creativity.